So we're standing at a moment of convergence where the physical world is being digitized, it's being automated, and it's connected through the Internet of Things. And we're witnessing massive growth from biological wearables to smart cities, as we just discussed. And the career field is widening and diversifying as a result of that. During the explosive growth of IoT that we're undergoing, it's critical that we continue to develop a broad talent pipeline in parallel with growing and attracting employers in our region. But talent isn't just engineers that do hardware and software. We're also going to need technicians, cybersecurity experts, and edge analytics specialists. The real opportunity, though, isn't just about training these people. It's about creating lifelong learners who can adapt across technologies, teams, and timelines. The question is, how do we align our education system with industry needs and student aspirations to create a resilient IoT workforce? In this discussion, the education leaders that you see before you today will share their insights on the talent pipeline's current state, existing programs, and they'll share emerging opportunities and share their vision on our region and how it can grow through collaboration. So welcome, panel. If you would, each introduce yourself, and Nick, we'll start with you.
Hi, my name is Nick Behrens. I work at Case Western Reserve University. Prior to that, I spent 20-some years in industry building products, electrical engineering is my background, firmware, software, many connected devices. At Case Western, my role, I wear a lot of hats. As we say at the university, no one job pays the bills. So part of my responsibilities there are better connecting the university to regional economic development activities, particularly around technology. I serve as the executive director for an institute called ISACS, the Institute for Smart, Secure, and Connected Systems, and co-executive director of the IoT Collaborative, a partnership between Case Western Reserve and Cleveland State University, generously catalyzed a number of years ago by the Cleveland Foundation, who saw a really interesting opportunity to help grow the region's technology capabilities and better connect universities again to the regional economic landscape. I'm also an adjunct faculty member in engineering. I'll talk a little about some of what we do there from an educational standpoint.
Good afternoon, Mario Codescoti, Director of Communications and Workforce Development for Lorraine County Joint Vocational School. The work that I do at the JVS is to align our programs to industry relevancy and speed. And so my job is to make sure that's being amplified from a communications and marketing standpoint and making sure that our programs align with the industry demand within Northeast Ohio. I sit on 2 national boards, President-elect of the Workforce Coalition through Career Technical Education and then the Association for Career and Technical Education.
Hi everyone, I'm Kelly DeBoth-Faust. I'm an associate professor in the Occupational Therapy Department here at Cleveland State University. I'm also managing director at the CSU Tech Hub, which is a strategic research center on campus. I am co-academic director of the IoTC, which is how Nick and I know each other. And I'm also the co-director of the new PhD program in transdisciplinary health sciences and technology that's in the College of Health. Shameless plug, there's some informational brochures outside for anyone interested in that program. I'm really happy to be here with you all today. I've also been the lead on a few grants from the Public Interest Technology University Network that has helped to facilitate programming related to tech and youth in under-resourced neighborhoods around Cleveland.
Thank you, Kelly. So yeah, we'll start by taking a look at the IoT talent pool here in Northeast Ohio, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So while there's room to grow in aligning talent with emerging needs, specifically, or especially I should say, in skilled manufacturing and technology, there are promising efforts underway. Businesses are navigating a shifting landscape as technology evolves, and this creates opportunities to better connect education, training, and career pathways, both regionally and beyond. My first question is to Mario. As we look at our talent pipeline, are we seeing a widening gap in middle and high school students' exposure to tech careers?
I definitely think we are. It's been pretty tricky to get young minds interested in this whole MEMS, IoT, semiconductor, advanced manufacturing space. Lorraine County, the area that I represent, and I have some colleagues here today, one from Lorraine County and then Lorraine County Community College. The resources are there. We have a lot of rich resources in Northeast Ohio, specifically in Lorraine County. I think the struggle that we're seeing is these young minds aren't necessarily interested in the idea. And I don't know if it's, we don't understand the aptitudes, we don't understand the roadmap, or it's these one-off scenarios of like field trips or disguised learning. I think there needs to be more intentionality around the strategy of getting these young minds to embrace the idea of getting into these spaces and 4.0, robotics, automation, IoT. I think we haven't done a great job at that.
Sure. So Nick, along similar lines, you've worked with younger students on real-world projects. And what's the key to getting the middle and high schoolers genuinely excited about IoT?
So we've gotten to engage in a number of different projects, and I think the things that we see work are the same things I see work with my own kids. Demonstrating something cool, technology-wise, behavior, interaction with technology, and then demystify the pathway of how we got there, right? To showcase that these are, it's not magic, right? Despite, the Arthur C. Clarke quote, I think, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So we've been able to do this with a number of projects, right? We've done work with the Great Lakes Science Center, who runs a number of camps for CMSD students and other students during the year, teaching them about IoT. So we got to do a pedometer project using a little single-board computer called a BBC microbit, based on the microbit from years ago, if anyone remembers the hobbyist computer.
It's out of Britain, I think, right?
Yeah, the British Broadcasting Corporation, where we built a learning module where the students learned a little bit about how to program this little embedded device, which has an accelerometer on it so it can detect motion. And then they learned to tweak the parameters to try to detect a step, right? And then there's a leaderboard set up in the room, and before you know it, the students have these mounted in their hands, and they're jumping around, right, trying to get it to trigger. And then actually posing questions on like, so if your grandmother was going to use this, who may be using a walker, how might you have to modify that detection algorithm? And this starts to, in our experience, start to open their minds to the design parameter space and seeing themselves as a computer scientist or an electrical engineer or chip designer. We've seen great experiences happening. I don't know if anybody's gotten to visit Magnet's new location, relatively new location, where they have lots of hands-on interactive product design capabilities there. So we think this is an awareness and then starting to demystify the design pathways.
Thank you. So Kelly, you've developed innovative programming for middle and high school students from under-resourced areas and exposing them to technology in Cleveland. How did you maintain engagement and what was the overall outcome?
So I think to build a little bit on what Nick said first, I feel like for the students that I've been working with from some of our most under-resourced areas like the Huff neighborhood, Glenville, all of those areas around Cleveland, they really seem to lack a sense of belonging in the tech field as well as access. So those are some of the barriers we were trying to address. So we created something called the Tech Box program where, we've been bragging about Ohio and Cleveland kind of all morning here so far, but Ohio has some really amazing centers for different types of technology. But a lot of people aren't aware of that. The students aren't certainly all aware of that. So we really wanted to give them exposure and hands-on experiential learning while doing small skill building. So they were able to do things like learn robot coding, and they all got their drones recreational pilot certificates, and then they could use that to give back to the community. So there was a learning component as well as this engagement of really being able to give back to the seniors, train others to do those things in the community, and I think they found a lot of meaning and all of a sudden a sense of belonging in those fields. And that's what they reported back to us overall, was that's how they felt. They all of a sudden felt like these tech fields are something maybe they could be a part of, and that was important.
That's awesome. That's a great outcome. So each of you are working on innovative models that tightly weave together academic rigor with real-world readiness to address the evolving IoT talent pipeline. My next question is to Nick. So how can academia stay current with fast-moving technologies such as AI and edge computing, while at the same time not losing depth or structure of your existing programs?
Yeah, it's a good question, Chris, right? There's, for people who aren't aware, adding new curriculum to a 4-year degree requires accreditation review. There's ABET and various things who are all there to enforce the quality delivery of education, right? So what we've been able to do is identify areas for flexibility. So for instance, in most 4-year degree programs, which is my primary focus in engineering and computer science, there are technical electives, right? And typically junior, senior year. And you have a little bit more flexibility in what you can do in those courses. So a number of years ago, we identified a gap in the curriculum at many universities around IoT. Many universities in computer science and electrical engineering, computer engineering offer mobile development courses. They'll offer embedded systems or real-time firmware courses, web development courses, cloud courses, infrastructure. But there were no courses that attempted to stitch all of this together. And really, as we are looking to want to produce systems-level computer scientists and engineers, moving beyond just components or applications, we need them to be what we sometimes refer to as T-shaped, right? That they have a broad understanding of a whole bunch of different relevant technology areas. So we created technical electives. We teach a joint Case Cleveland State course, actually, Intro to Connected Devices, that takes students on a real-world hands-on experience from creating a device, assembling a device, connecting it to the cloud, building web interfaces, Bluetooth, mobile, and then getting into the systems level concerns, right, which we've talked a lot about today. Security, load testing and scaling, analytics, right, all the things that are critical to getting data out of these devices and making sense of it. So there's flexibility, right, but we, as a university, for instance, we can't create a course in a few weeks. And we need to be thinking about long-term, right? But the other thing I'll mention about this course that's unusual is it has to be entirely revamped every time we offer it, because all the underlying technologies, iOS, Amazon Web Services, are all moving technology targets. And this creates a significant burden to the team delivering the course. So I think that's just some of the reality to keep in mind as we're thinking about expanding this, is the resource requirements.
For sure. So Mario, what are some of the models that you've seen integrate career prep and classroom learning effectively?
Yeah, so I think to some of the commentary Nick just mentioned really complements how there is synergy between career tech and academia. State of Ohio has never been more poised for career technical education. Funding is coming from the state. We're getting announcements daily from the federal government that workforce development, career tech is where it's at. By 2030, there will be 1 million vacant jobs. 75% of those jobs in Ohio will be filled by career tech students. If you're not familiar with career tech institutions are booming. So we represent the largest career tech institution in Northeast Ohio. We have close to 1,800 high school students from freshman to senior, learning academia and technical education under one roof, 500,000 square foot facility. So what does that all mean? So a couple years ago, the state of Ohio released Apprentice Ohio and wanted really all of these career tech and traditional schools to start running apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship programs. Well, let me tell you, career tech has been doing that since career tech has been funded. We call it work-based learning. And so all of our programs are now pre-apprenticeship, but on average, our students, by the time they complete 1 year of their career tech program, have over 180 hours in that career field. Okay? Apprenticeship Ohio says you just need 40 hours. We're doing, on average, anywhere from 120 to 180 hours in that career field. The other thing that I think is really important, kind of some of the vernacular that Nick was mentioning, is our speed, our cadence, our agility. And that's where career tech, I think, is a little bit different than academia, is we have the ability to pivot really quickly, in which we've really aligned with industry over these last couple of years, is we're able to align with industry demand pretty quickly, getting students the right skill sets, the stackable credentials to go right out into the workforce. How we need to leverage that better between our institutions is how do we create that roadmap to an LCC, to a Tri-C, to a Cleveland State, to a Case, because our students graduate, but they really just want to go right into the workforce. So, for instance, we're placing juniors and seniors right now. We've placed over 215 students in a full-time position making over $22 an hour this summer. We graduated over 400 seniors this year. 175 of them went into full-time positions making over $26 an hour. How do we get those students to embrace lifelong learning? And that's where our institutions, I think, have to do a better job at that, because there is work. People want to have workforce mobility, but we also have to tie that back into lifelong learning.
That's awesome. So, Kelly, how have you seen earn and learn models be effective in middle and high school student population?
So I think, one thing that's been important is to consider how students feel valued. And rather than it almost feeling just like an experiment to get them in and see if they like this or the other, that we want them to know that we value their time, we value who they are as people. So these earn and learn models, I think, are very effective, that they understand that we get that they have other obligations, other things they could be choosing to do with their time, but we really want them invested and engaged more long-term in these ideas and really taking it to heart and integrating what they're learning with some of their other activities. So I think that that's been really successful for the Tech Box program. They got gift cards every time they attended a session. If they attended 75% of them, they had a tablet that was theirs to then keep, and then they could use that to go out and do work in the community with seniors and other folks, so that they were given tools, skills, resources to be able to go out and do more.
Thank you. Good. So the next question is to the whole panel. As we look into the future of education, what one idea or program would really move the needle for our students and employees in making Northeast Ohio a global leader in IoT?
So I don't think it's a single program, unfortunately, but I think it's going to be the broad scale application of AI, right? Software developers have been using AI for many years now as part of their development cycle. I don't think we've seen the implications of that at the infrastructure side at the same scale, thinking about IoT, and I don't think we've seen that yet on the inference side or really at the edge training side, right, as we put more computing power out there. So I think things that we can be doing as a region to get ahead of that around innovative pilot projects, curriculum development, to start positioning our region at the forefront, because many regions around the country, let's be honest, are working in these spaces as well. MIT was mentioned, Silicon Valley, the Stanford, and that's just in the US. And if we think about China and other regions, they're very actively pursuing these. So I think if we're going to capture this, it's really going to be having to take some concerted action in the very near term.
Okay. So Mario, how about your thoughts on moving the needle?
Yeah, I think stacking on what Nick just said, how do we package that to the public, right? And I think that is where that synergy, that collaboration between academia, career tech, private and public institutions working together, aiming at one North Star, I think that's where Lorraine County has really taken off, is we've been really able to work collectively between One Lorraine, LCC, us, our traditional schools, Team Neo Jobs Ohio. We're all having the same conversation with the right institutions weekly, daily, and so we all know what we need to be aiming at. We're also leveraging our strengths, and I think that's where we're able to really focus what Nick said about AI, and where does that expand, and then packaging that, and I think that's where we package it as this ecosystem working in such tandem together.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about technical skills. But what about soft skills? What about the skills that aren't so technical? How essential would those be for future IoT workforce? And I guess this question I aim to Kelly as an occupational therapist. What are the soft skills that you find or that you've observed have been essential to young children who are preparing for education and careers in technical roles?
So I really think as they gain that technical education and experience, it's really important to consider the social emotional learning, interpersonal relationships, team management, working interdisciplinary, understanding other fields, so that they can be effective in those positions, not just knowledgeable about them. And I would also want to add, when I think about healthcare and IoT, obviously there's a lot of work being done specifically in that field too. What we're trying to accomplish with our PhD program is that we've seen oftentimes IoT devices are created for end users, stakeholders, folks with disabilities, outside of the context of what their actual needs, wants, and really are. And so we're trying to sort of flip that switch a little bit and start with working to train our future researchers, those that will be in research and development, in engineering, will be in healthcare, to have them really start working together and think about what the needs are first, to engage the stakeholders, the end users from the very beginning of those research projects, so that as devices move into the market, that the uptake is there, that the adoption is a much higher percentage, and that they become more useful in the marketplace.
Thank you. So I have one more question, and this will be the same question for each of you. What are you excited about right now?
So I'm excited about seeing everybody in the room today. A number of us have been working in the IoT space in the region for several years, and it's great to see this effort continue. The other thing I'm very excited about is this regional collaboration we've been seeing more and more in the last few years between the economic development agencies, local government, state government, the universities, higher education, really thinking broadly about what industries we as a region should be leading in, and building strategies from sites to curriculum development to all of the components here to get this region back on a fast growth path.
I echo Nick's commentary about collaboration. I think for me, what I'm really excited about is the disruption in private investment in Ohio. The announcement from First Quality, the announcement from Kimberly-Clark, the announcement from Anduril. I think these companies, I was on a conference call, over 63 companies from the West Coast and the East Coast have come to Ohio. That's telling. And so what does that influence do within the ecosystem that's currently in Ohio? And I know we're in Lorraine County trying to figure out what does that look like now, right? Because now we're catering to our existing companies, but now we have new companies flocking here. And so how do we attract these companies to continue to privately invest in Northeast Ohio, and to make sure that we have the talent and we're leveraging our natural resources, smart water. All of those things are really exciting, and I think if we can just continue to catalyze that, it creates just even more optimism, which then is going to inspire growth and transformation.
I think I'll echo some of that about collaboration. I really feel that what gets me excited are the partnerships that continue to be sort of curated over time, and to see smaller local community organizations get excited about these same ideas and to get on board and to be able to provide additional opportunities. You know, we started working with places like Magnet, which seemed really obvious to be able to engage students in this way, but then, you know, now we're working with Cleveland Public Library and the Fatima Family Center, and those kinds of organizations that you wouldn't necessarily think of as being invested in this space, but now are, so I look forward to continuing that.
Thank you. So in closing, to build the future IoT talent in Northeast Ohio, we need to blur the lines between education and industry. Our students deserve more than just access. They need mentorship, opportunity, and a clear path from the classroom to the innovation floor. That's how we transform a region into a talent region. Thank you.